Today we're going to talk about volume and surface area of the cube, rectangular prism, and cylinder. The volume is defined as the space inside the 3D object. When I think of volume, I think of pouring water into a bathtub. The bathtub will hold a specific amount of water, and that would be the volume of the bathtub. The surface area is defined as the total area of all the surfaces for the 3D object. Again, when I think of surface area, I think of wrapping a present. I want to make sure I have enough wrapping paper to wrap all sides of the present, so I would need to calculate the total area of all of the surfaces. So let's take a look at the volume and surface area of a cube and a rectangular prism. These two shapes are basically the same, with one exception. With a cube, the length, the width, and the height are all the same values, because each edge of the cube is equal to every other edge. Volume equals length times width times height, and the surface area equals 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. Let's look at an example that deals with a cube. Jessica created a cube in technology class. Each edge measures 2.3 centimeters. What is the volume of the cube in cubic centimeters? The first thing that we want to do is we want to notice that our question asks for the volume. And so we will need to pull our volume formula. Volume equals length times width times height. The next thing that I like to do is make a little list of the things that are needed in order to solve for the volume. Obviously, since the question is asking for volume, we don't know what the volume is. Now, the question does say each edge measures 2.3 centimeters. Since this is a cube, we know that if one edge measures 2.3 centimeters, all of the edges measure 2.3 centimeters, and therefore the length, the width, and the height are all 2.3. Now simply what we will do is plug in our values into our formula. Volume will equal 2.3 times 2.3 times 2.3. If we put that into our calculator, the volume of Jessica's cube will be approximately 12.2 centimeters cubed. Let's take a look at another example dealing with the rectangular prism. Mr. Jones is painting a box that measures 3 feet long, 1.5 feet wide, and 2 feet high. What is the total surface area he will paint? Notice, since I had a picture available to me, I wrote the values from my question on the picture. Since the question is asking for surface area, I want to write my surface area formula. Surface area equals 2LW plus 2HW plus 2LH. Again, I will need length, width, and height, so I make a little list. The question asks for surface area, so that is what I will be trying to find. For length, width, and height, the length is 3 feet, the width is 1.5 feet, and the height is 2 feet. Again, what I will do is I will put those values into my equation. And if you take a look, I have put 3 in every place I see L, I've put 1.5 in every place I see W, and I put 2 in every place that I have seen H. Now this might take you a little bit of time to put into your calculator. Make sure you put it in accurately. However, when you do, you will come up with a value of 27. So our surface area equals 27, and in this case, since our units are feet, it will be feet to the second power of feet squared. Now let's take a look at our formulas for volume and surface area of a cylinder. Notice with the volume formula, volume equals pi times r squared times h. The r stands for the radius. As you notice the top view of the cylinder, I have drawn a radius, which is halfway across the circle. The h stands for the height, simply the height of the cylinder. Surface area also uses those two measurements. Surface area equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. So let's take a look at an example dealing with the cylinder. A soup can is in the shape of a cylinder. The can has a volume of 342 centimeters cubed and a diameter of 6 centimeters. Express the height of the can in terms of pi. This problem talks about the volume of a cylinder, and so I need to make sure I use the volume formula. Volume equals pi times r squared times h. However, this time it's a little different when I create my list. Volume, radius, and height. The question actually tells me that the volume is 342 centimeters cubed. Then it goes on to tell me that the diameter is 6 centimeters. Now, I need the radius, and so I need to understand that if the diameter is 6 centimeters, the diameter of a circle is all the way across the center. The radius is only halfway. And so in order to calculate the radius, I need to take half of the diameter, and half the diameter of 6 is equal to 3, so my radius is 3 centimeters. The question asks to express the height, so the height is what I'm going to try to find. Again, I'm going to take my formula and I'm going to plug in my values. 342 goes in for volume, and the 3 goes in for the R. Now I want to take a look, and I'm going to have to solve for h, so I'm going to have to simplify this just a little bit further. I know that 3 squared is 9, so I can write 342 equals pi times 9 times h. And now what I want to do is get h by itself. Normally what we would do is multiply pi times 9, we'd get a decimal, and then we would be able to easily solve for h. But when the question asks for in terms of pi, it means it wants pi in the final answer. And so what we need to do is not evaluate pi times 9 and almost act like pi is a variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to get h by itself. In order to do that, we are going to divide both sides of my equation by pi times 9. When that happens, the pi and the 9 cross out on the right-hand side, leaving the h by itself. And so now I'm left with just simplifying the left-hand side. Again, I want to make sure pi stays in my answer. I notice that the pi is in the denominator, so the pi is going to stay in the denominator, and I just want to simplify 342 over 9. If I type that into my calculator, 342 divided by 9, I get 38. And so 38 will go in the numerator, and the pi will stay in the denominator. When I do this, I've solved for the height of the soup can, which is 38 over pi centimeters.